Hello, everyone. It's First Fridays with Ambassador Terry and friends. And my guest this week is just as special as special can be. Dr. Elia Gourgouris is here. Elia, I'm so glad you could make this conversation because it's so important that we talk about the future of work and where it's going. And you can give some direct response to that with some of the things that you've been doing recently. So welcome.
Thank you, Terry. Such a pleasure to be here, and happy November. I'm Greek, so in Greece, at the beginning of every month, we greet each other by saying the word kalomina, which means good month. So this is kind of like everybody does that. So I'm wishing everybody a happy and a good month for November, a month of Thanksgiving. So in spite of everything that's going on in life, we still have a lot to be grateful for. So let's have a great month.
Yes, yes, I like that. That's a great. Uh, I just love it. It resonates. We don't need. We get to have in this world a little bit more complacency, a little bit of slowing down and reaching out and being with self, so that we can be present with other people. You and I have talked about that in the past, and the future of work. Like we've been talking about, the normal and the new normal, and all of that. I'd like you to expand because you just mentioned something that I thought was quite interesting around that. So won't you go ahead?
Yeah, I just came back from speaking in Cyprus and Greece, the future of work, in another conference called Dare to Grow in a healthcare company. And, speaking with senior leaders, everybody is interested, apprehensive, excited, scared with all the geopolitical stuff that's taking place in the world. If you and I had talked 8 months ago, a year ago, and said, there's a real possibility of a nuclear exchange, people would say these guys have been watching way too many sci-fi movies. And yet we hear this, existential threat to humanity happening almost on a daily basis. So obviously a very, very unpleasant scene in Europe. Let's hope it doesn't grow beyond it, and let's hope that they find some kind of resolution soon and we go into the holidays with some peace in this world. Then you have inflation that's running rampant. It's been at least 40 to 50 years since we had something like that globally. And there's the energy crisis. You feel it more in Europe than you do in the United States in terms of the energy crisis because they're going into a deep winter, and they have to wean themselves off, Russian energy. So they're struggling somewhat, but a united front in terms of democracy and so on. But back to the future of work. So all of these events that are taking place are beyond our control, and they're really beyond organizations' control, right? And what I spoke on was how to create a culture of emotionally and mentally healthy employees. Because as we come out of the post pandemic world, I mean, I think we've all been somewhat traumatized. It's like, our lives got totally hijacked for the last 2 or 3 years. So, on the one hand, that's been our experience, you know, and we talked a little bit about mental health just in general, not just for employees. So many people struggling from depression and anxiety and stress and post-traumatic stress disorder. And according to the United Nations, there are billions of people like that who did not have a pre-existing condition prior to the pandemic. So that's kind of like, across the board, across humanity. It doesn't matter if you're profit, nonprofit, small company, entrepreneur, or, multi-billion dollar Fortune 100 company. People are people, and people are struggling. Now, having said that, working with companies that seem to have come out of the post-pandemic world, and not the new normal. I don't really even like the term new normal because I think it's become really passe. We really talk about the next normal. Anticipating 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the line. What's the one thing that they all need? They need healthy employees. I don't want to even say happy employees, although I'm a happiness expert. That's what I do. But just and why do they need a culture of emotionally strong and mentally, strong employees? Um, because of what we're facing. So the one term that comes to my mind is resilience flexibility and adaptability, meaning that you can continue to do things the old way and expect similar results because so many things have changed. And working with senior leaders, and I'm excited to see at least the companies that I work with the last couple of weeks when I was there, and is that they're very open to new ideas. They're from an HR perspective or from senior leaders, even above that, they're very open to new ideas about corporate wellness and how to take care of their employees. And they're investing in their employees. I mean, that's one of the reasons why they brought me in, um, because they recognize basically, and specifically with leaders, and I shared with them like happy leaders equals happy teams, and kind of like a lighthearted way. But if you think about it, like people are attracted to happy leaders, right? People are attracted to happy people in general. Let's leave it at that. Um, so what do these happy quote unquote leaders have in common? And one of the first thing that they do is they really practice self-care. And I want to ask you this: is self-care selfish? I keep getting asked that all over the place. Do you think practicing self-care is selfish, Terry?
Absolutely not. I practice self care myself because I teach, and I've spoke about this many times on a couple of things that we've been on, as a matter of fact, and that is you cannot give what you do not have. So if you don't love yourself and are at peace with yourself, you're not going to send that out to anyone, and it's certainly not going to come back to you. And if it does, it comes back as a false flag. So take care of yourself first. That is not selfish. I absolutely believe that that is the best course of action. No, it's not really a course of action. It's a living. It's a journey. It's being aware that you count first. Okay, it's like the oxygen mask that comes down on the airplane. You put yours on first, or you're not going to help that many people, if any. So it falls directly to that. Good point.
So we start off by, I have this personal health assessment that I, share with people. How do you take care of yourself emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually? It takes like 2 minutes. I personally I created this assessment. I take it myself on the first of every month. Just like, it's like taking your pulse, basically, how am I doing this month? What areas am I doing well? What am I struggling with? And they really love that because it's not theory. It's like, okay, it's something that's doable. It's available, and I'd be glad to share it with you afterwards. You can share it with your viewers. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. It's just, how am I doing? And are there areas in my life that I'm doing well? And there usually are. People don't, oftentimes we don't pay attention to things we do well. We just take them for granted. We always focus on what's not working. But what I like about this assessment is like it shows you, hey, in these areas you're doing great. Some other areas, you're doing okay, but there's some room for improvement. But if there's, a couple of areas where you're like really struggling and that has a direct impact on both your health and your happiness, then it's something that you can focus, let's say, one of those areas for the next 30 days, for the next month, and kind of move the needle a little bit. So self-care, lead by example as leaders. Um, what does that do for employees? When employees are content, let's say they're happy, what are some of the benefits of that? Because they really wanted me to focus, how do you get there? But really, what are the benefits at the end? Number one, happy employees are physically healthier. Nobody really actually counts that. Do you know that? Meaning they physically, because they're healthier and happier and their lives are more balanced, they don't miss work. They don't get sick. They don't have to go to the doctor. They don't have to go. And there's a huge cost obviously when people are sick. So that's number one, which nobody really, if you look at the bottom line, healthy employees save companies and organizations millions of dollars a year. That's the easy one. The second thing is, I think they're more creative, they're more innovative. Um, they celebrate their mistakes. I work with companies that actually have first Fridays of every month. They get up, they have a meeting, and they celebrate their mistakes. The first time I saw that, I'm like, what the hell kind of company is this? And the senior leader asked me, he says, I want you to see how I run my meetings. And he was young, innovative, very creative. And that's the first thing that he did. And people were like, well, on Monday, I screwed up doing this. And they're all clapping. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? When I pulled him aside, I said, why do you do that? He goes, because it was a software company. And they were like, anyway, he's like, because I don't want them to be afraid to try new things. If we're going to outperform our competition, there's no way we're going to do that without innovation and without creativity. But if I have a fear-based culture, it was very interesting. He was like in his 30s, like this brilliant young man, like a genius. You're like, I want them to feel free that they can make mistakes, and we want to celebrate their mistakes. Now, having said that, we don't want to do the same mistake every week. So they kind of go back to what Nelson Mandela said. One of my favorite quotes is, "In life, either you win or you learn." Meaning there are no mistake. Like as long as you learn something. So that was their approach. So help your organization to create a culture where people feel comfortable. You don't have to be perfect. You shouldn't be afraid of making a mistake. Obviously, you learn from my mistakes. Obviously, I mean, so that's number two in terms of leadership and creating that kind of. What else is good about healthy and happy employees? I think they're more productive as a result of that. They're better teammates. And when I share that, somebody raised their hand and said, "Why do you say that? Why are happy employees better teammates?" And we're going to go back to what you said just there about self-care. You put your mask on first, you have the oxygen. Now, because your own batteries are full, when you see a colleague, at the desk next to you, or and you see them struggling, you can reach out and offer a helping hand and say, "Hey," right? So better teammates as a result of that. And ultimately, you put all that together, it makes the company more profitable. It makes the bottom line. So the importance of having mentally and emotionally strong employees, starting from the leadership on down, is indispensable. Like you can't take a shortcut and focus on other stuff if you don't take care of your people first.
Right on, right on, right on. Ladies and gentlemen, that was my latest book, Consortium. Thank you very much for the recap. It's so spot on, and we agree with on so many things. And I would expand on that a little bit because we as leaders, corporate leaders, we look at that earnings before interest and taxation. EBIT is everything. And when your employees, like you say, if you're achieving, you're happy, you can't wait to get to work because you want to be in that buzz and you're going to live a healthier lifestyle, both at home, so your family's healthier. And as a direct result of that, there's a lot of expense lines above that EBIT that go down. Okay, employee healthcare insurance, the premiums go down because you're not going to you're not doing a lot of things, and you realize that the allowing and setting a atmosphere of positivity, and the fact that you either learn or you learn, that's how I usually say it, is magnificent. And that young man has got it spot on because that's where we have to go. It's not where we're at. What we do today is not working. And look at any major organization. I don't care if it's an international bank, Twitter. We already said Twitter. And
today, yeah,
they're running the model based on the old model. There's a new model. And these young people that are out there, our basis of our future workforce, don't put up with that. They don't believe in that model. They believe that I'm okay and I can contribute. And if you don't like me and acknowledge me and support me, bye, I'm gone. Or better yet, I'll tell you what, I'll leave my company, become a consultant, charge you double for the same job, and that's happening out there too. So that's all very valid out there today. And, we talk about the future of work and where it's going, and I think we've hit it right on the nose, and that is that respect, that creation of a place to be, not a place to go to work.
Right.
The achievement model and the vision strategy roadmap that I have on my website, for instance, does exactly that. It does away with the timelines. There's no goals. Stakeholders are happy because the company's going faster than anticipated. The only people that are keeping track of timelines in a company like that are the tax people. They have some reason to cut your tap line. But the rest of the people are happier, they're healthier, they're more productive. When things are not going well in their division or the unit or their area of expertise, they all get together and they say, okay, this is not working real well, fellas. Let's now sit down and what can change to make it better? do we as a group want to go to corporate and say, we'd like to change revenue streams. We think we can make more money doing this than what we're doing right now. And corporate's going to say, tell me more. Let's hear that. Okay. The corporations of yesterday are going, do what you do. Be there, go to work, and do your job exactly as you were hired. And that just stagnates incredible minds from doing great things in their own companies. And those are the people who have sick days. Those are people who have sick people at home, all those kinds of things, because they're sick themselves, physically and emotionally. And that's
Let me
powerful.
share something, yeah, with that, Terry. That most companies have exit interviews, right? And I talked about that,
Right.
the future of work. I said exit interviews are so lame. It's too late. Why are we having it? It's too late. You already lost top talent. They were unhappy. They were unhappy for a long time. They didn't just decide this morning I'm leaving my job, right? So how do we overcome that? Because and and they said, well, how do you do that? I said, well, I teach people to have stay interviews. And they're like, well, what the heck is a stay interview? Like stay interviews start from when you onboard somebody on a Monday, right? They've gone through the interview process 3 or 4 times and so on. You've agreed, you've signed the contract. They're excited to come to your company. They start on Monday. Your first stay interview should happen on the Friday of the first week they're there. So what is a stay interview is basically sitting down saying, how was your week? Did the things that we promised you, did we fulfill our promises in the first week? Or did we tell you you're going to get a brand new laptop and it never arrived and you've been frustrated for the whole week and you go home and you're like telling your significant other, I think I made a mistake coming to this company because they promised me a whole bunch of stuff and they haven't delivered. A stay interview captures you. It's number one says, I care enough. I just want to, go back and see how did your week go? Is there anything that we promised that we didn't deliver for this? And if it is, let me take care of it right now before 5 p.m. on Friday. So we make sure that we match your expectations. Because when we do that,
On point.
yeah, and then you have a stay interview at the end of the first month. Again, the same thing. How's your first month been? And it's not formal or anything. It's not like you have to write things down. You take them out to lunch and say, how are you feeling? How are you adapting to the culture of this company? How's your team doing? How have you been received? Is there anything I can do, perhaps as the hiring manager or your boss or whatever, to make your transition easier and better? And then you have another stay interview at 90 days. What happens as a result of that, number one, the new employees feels like, actually, these people actually care. They didn't just say that, they're actually showing up that way. And you continue to have, what I describe as hot communication, HOT, which stands for honest, open, and transparent. And hopefully you do it from a place of love, not from a place of like, let me give you some constructive criticism and you hit him over the head. There's nothing constructive about criticism. That's an oxymoron. So, but if you have those communications, honest, open, and transparent with people in your stay interviews, guess what happens? They never get to an exit interview because they're content. They're happy. They feel like you're part of this family, and you create this beautiful culture. And this is the one benefit that I didn't share with you before with happy employees. They become your brand ambassadors. The marketing department is great, but there's nothing better than a new employee or an employee that's been there for a while who just loves coming to work, like you said. They're not going through the motions. They're excited to show up every day to work. And as a result of that, they begin to recruit other great talent that's out there. Right? And they bring in their friends and they're bringing their associates and they bring people from their own network. And that's market, that brand ambassadorship is free. Doesn't cost you anything. They're content and they bring great talent in. And that's how you grow a wonderful brand, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no better recommendation than say, hi, hey friend, you should be working with us.
Right.
Why are you putting with all that angst and you hate where you are, you hate what you're doing? Why aren't you with us? We love what we're doing. And we'll let's take a look at talking to my boss and see where that could go.
And when they come in, they already have somebody that they know. They have a friend already in the company. They haven't even started working there. They already have you as a mentor or a friend, right?
who can go to their boss or to some sort of hiring manager of where the expertise of their friend is and say, got any openings? I got this incredible guy. He's amazing and he hates where he's at. You know, is there something we can do to get him with us and start that dialogue?
By the way, that young man, I call him young man, he was in his 30s, who was just brilliant. He used to hire people based on their skill set, not on a position that he needed necessarily. He said, my goal is to hire the best people, kind of like what Steve Jobs said. I don't hire, people to tell them what to do. I hire them to tell me what to do, kind of like hiring smart people. And he says,
Yeah.
I hire them based on who they are and if they fit with the culture. And then I find them a position, which is kind of weird because most time when you hire somebody, well, you have this opening, I got to fill this position. He was like, no, I can train people in their position. I need people that they just resonate with the culture that we have. That's the most important thing to me. They have the skill. Never mind where I'm going to put them. I just need them on my team first, and then I'll figure it out. So that he was doing it kind of backwards. Because most people I have an opening here, I need to find somebody here. That's not how he did it. He found the right people then and used them. And he was, as a leader, he was very flexible, was another thing I liked about him. He's like, he was young. And you know what I liked about him? He was unafraid. Sometimes you hire people and, it doesn't work out for the position you had in your own mind initially, but something else opens up and you go, aha, this is the reason why I hired him. And you put him in that position. And, when I watched him, I was with that company for 4 years and I watched him 4 years. He rarely made a mistake. When he hired people, he found the right job for them. And they in turn became a brand ambassador. It was kind of like, it was a $3.5 billion company. He was a small portion of that, just doing their online marketing and so on. And he grew that company by him, really, he started it almost like with 2 people, and he grew it by hiring great talent. And that great talent, recommended other great talent. And that's how it happened, kind of word of mouth.
Right on. I love what you're saying. We have an opening come up for whatever reason, life happens. And rather than saying, okay, HR, come up with something. HR, I hate, all right, people, place, get us some people. It's not HR. Resources are expense lines. People are investments. And you, instead of telling them that, you get together with senior management and say, this middle manager or up position is open. Who do we think who already knows our culture should be doing that job?
Right.
And then we'll look at somebody else to take their job or whatever, rather than just going out and get somebody new who probably has the skills, but will take 6 months to a year to really get into the culture, particularly if it's a sporadic culture. But
Right.
What we're talking about is this steady, supportive place to work where, the person who's leaving, say their spouse took an incredible promotion on the other side of the continent, and you got to go, And so, but you know what I'd like you to consider is I'd like you to consider Alice here to take my job. She's incredible. She's my backup here all the time. I'd like you to consider her to come into that job because I think she's earned it, rather than go get somebody who can come in here and go through the stuff. And, Alice has got one of those jobs we can put somebody else in relatively easy,
And what did that do for Alice, knowing that she's valued enough that as soon as that opportunity happened, they promoted from internally, right?
Absolutely.
Versus somebody else coming from the outside, taking that position that's, she sees the opening, but she never gets, an opportunity to go for it. And they bring people from the outside. There's such incredible talent, sometimes hidden within organizations,
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
let's value our people. Let's promote from within. Let's find the right person that matches the culture, and the opportunities and the growth will happen organically. That's been my experience anyway. And just
Absolutely.
stay flexible and adaptable.
Agree.
Yeah. Stay flexible and adaptable as you do that. And in the end, happy employees will make your company more profitable and more fun to be around. That's the other thing.
Amen. Amen. Dr. Elia Gourgouris, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I do. And thanks for going through my entire book, Consortium. And I love you, man. I thank you very much for coming today. And ladies and gentlemen, leave your comments. Leave your comments for us. We're going to be looking for them, and we'd be happy to. You know, he's going to put some a link to that once a month thing that he talked about earlier, which I am going to look up. And I think it's a great idea. So thanks for stopping in, ladies and gentlemen. We enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Terry. It's a pleasure to be with you. I appreciate it.